Hey Roses and hey Geography Now watchers. Someone told me to, when I reacted to Geography Now Australia, someone was like, they didn't like really talk about some stuff more and things have changed here and there. But then someone told me to check out Australia territories and states explained, and that's what I'm going to watch today. So if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell button, get notified every time I upload, like, comment, share, and also what? Anyway, without further ado, let's just jump straight into the video. Yeah, let's get to know more about Australia. I thank you guys for watching that. If you didn't watch my Geography Now Australia video, you can go check it out right now. Even after this video, you can check it out. Before or after, it's up to you. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Yeah, let's go.
Hey everybody, so this is going to be a special extra bonus video for you. Heavily requested, the states and territories of Australia. Before we start though, as you guys know, I'm saving up money to buy flight tickets to visit you guys for the next geographies. We got some great submissions from you guys on 4 continents. There's a guy from Somaliland, Kazakhstan, a girl from Italy. So obviously one way that I make money is to do sponsored videos. As you guys know, I'm kind of selective with the brands that I choose to work with. No more video games. Now I only work with education and geography based brands. And I'm happy to announce you've probably heard of them. The good people at Skillshare have reached out and decided to sponsor this video. Skillshare is a website where you can learn skills. Pretty simple. There are over 25,000. You guys rock. All right, so finally, let's talk Australia. I love Aussies. They're like one of the only few people in the world that can out crazy Americans. Now, we kind of already explained this in the Australia video, but let's just kind of recap. Australia is basically divided into 6 states and 10 federal territories, 3 of which are internal and 7 of which are external outlying island territories. So I talked to a lot of you guys, the Aussie subscribers. You helped me write this script and gave me information. So I'm going to kind of just report back what a lot of you guys said and add my research. So here we go. New South Wales, capital Sydney. This is the most populous state at about 7 million. A little less than a third of all Australians live in this one state. And the capital, Sydney, alone holds about 2/3 of the entire state's population. Basically, even though this was not the first place that was discovered in Australia by Europeans, it's kind of like the first place where the British started colonizing. You know this place. It has all the touristy spots. It's super diverse. You'll find a lot of Greeks and Asians and Maltese even, and South Africans. Oh, and don't forget Lord Howe Island belongs to them. In the south, it's also home to the highest peak on the mainland, Kosciuszko, and it's also the source of the longest river in the country, the Murray. According to Geography Brad, New South Welshmen love to gamble, and it's kind of like a problem. Like half of all the bars and clubs have slot machines. In general, New South Wales is kind of like the core nucleus business hub. It's like the uppity metropolitan part of Australia. Also, Hugh Jackman and AC/DC are from here. Queensland, capital Brisbane. I was told sometimes the people here are called banana benders because it's like home of Australia's banana industry. This Dutch dude landed in Cape York somewhere, you know, that horn of Australia. According to Geography Max, it's where the rainforest meets the reef. And it's basically like the playground of Australia, kind of like the Florida, Orlando, you know. They got amazing beaches. They got the world famous Great Barrier Reef, great snorkeling. Just be careful though, because on some of the beaches you can find box jellyfish, which could kill you in minutes. On top of that, they got a ton of theme parks, and it even has the tallest building in all of Australia and the Southern Hemisphere, Q1. Southern Australia, the festival state. Capital Adelaide. A lot of you guys said this. It's kind of famous for being that place where the guy murdered people and hid body parts in barrels. And the people here eat crows, which is why their AFL team is the Crows. That's what you guys said. Okay. No, but seriously, Adelaide is sometimes called Radelaide. It was voted one of the safest and livable cities in not only just Australia, but the world. Apparently, I was told the best wine also comes from South Australia, mostly grown in the Barossa and Clare Valley. It's also known for having like all those salt flats and dry lake beds. Mining is huge out here, especially in opal. And speaking of which, it's also home to Coober Pedy, the underground city. Cool. Tasmania, colloquially known as Tassie. Capital Hobart. This is the only island state out of all the states, and it's made up of like one big island and like 300 smaller islands. I was told Tasmania is kind of like the butt of all the jokes for Australians. They kind of treat it as if it's like the West Virginia of Australia. According to Geography Kelly, the people are basically apple-eating bogans and two-headed mutants. The word bogan meaning something like hillbillies. No, but that's the joke. But in all seriousness, Tasmania is actually a very beautiful place. It's known for its very unique flora and fauna. Of course, you guys all know that they're famous for having the Tasmanian devil, the largest carnivorous marsupial in the world. Like a big rat. Tasmanian tiger, but they went went extinct in the 30s. Sad. I was told they're really nice people though, and apparently they make really good cheese and whiskey.
Not a cheese fan.
Victoria, the Garden State. Capital, Melbourne, not Melbourne.
Melbourne,
It is the second most populous state
Someone
after
told me
New
the
South
comment
Wales,
section
and it is the most densely
last time.
populated state. It was famous for a gold rush in the 1850s, and it was also famous
like
for the
Canberra,
Eureka Stockade.
Canberra.
It was like the only armed conflict and fight against the British during colonial times. The biggest thing you guys told me is that this is kind of like the arch nemesis of New South Wales. These people fight with New South Wales on like everything. Cricket, AFL, rugby, even dancing, like they invented the Melbourne Shuffle. Even architecture. To this day, Melbourne actually has more skyscrapers than Sydney, and they hold the second, third, fourth, and fifth tallest buildings in the country.
Melbourne.
It's like they didn't even want to give Sydney a chance. Basically, in the capital, Melbourne, there's like two different types of people. There's like the hardcore sports fanatics, or the hipsters. They have a huge
So there's
cafe
a
culture
huge
and
gap
like
between-
artsy scene with like live music. Otherwise, they also have the 12 Apostles,
12
Phillip
Apostles,
Island, where you can
Phillip
see penguins. But yeah, basically you get kind of like this artsy, coffee drinking, but highly competitive state in Australia. Western Australia, capital Perth.
Perth
It is the largest state
was
area-wise.
big.
It basically just takes up the entire western
But they
third
have
of
so much of a
Australia. It's actually the
population.
second largest country subdivision in the world after the Sakha Republic in Russia. About 92% of the population lives just in this little southwest corner where the green vegetation
Of
is,
course.
and out of that group,
I
about
understand.
79% of whom live in the Perth metropolitan area. They are the second largest iron ore producer in the world.
Oh.
About 46% of all Australian exports actually come from this
From
state
Perth.
alone. Geography Keith, not our Keith, a different Keith, said the people here are cashed up bogans. It's kind of like those, you know, rich Texan oil prospectors, you know. It was also the site of the famous Emu War, where Australians fought against emus and lost. And also
Seriously?
home to famous bubblegum pink
Oh,
Lake
I saw it
Hillier.
in the
It's also
video
home to the
before.
Kimberley region, one of the most geologically fascinating regions in all of Australia. Rottnest Island, where you can see those quokkas, the
quokka was
smiling
hugging the
animal.
camera.
And yeah, just really underrated. I say check it out. Why not?
Why
and
not?
now we reach the territories.
Territories.
The Australian Capital Territory, otherwise known as ACT, capital of this territory and the entire country, Canberra. I will never forgive myself for getting it totally wrong in the Australia video. It was so
Canberra.
embarrassing. But hey, I'm redeeming myself right now. Canberra.
Canberra.
In a nutshell, Canberra was built because it was kind of
Canberra.
like the middle point between Melbourne and Sydney, so that neither could be the
Melbourne.
capital, and they were just like, let's find a
Melbourne.
neutral ground, even though geographically it's a little closer to
Canberra.
Sydney. The territory is small, only
Canberra.
encompassing about 2,300 square kilometers. It's basically where you see all the government buildings, the Parliament building, which actually looks pretty cool. A lot of you guys said the same thing for some reason. It is known for having lots of roundabouts, people who can't build front fences on their property, legal fireworks, and legal pornography.
What?
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean,
Legal?
a lot of you guys wrote that, so I guess I just
Alright.
have to report what you said. I mean, they also have a zoo, aquarium, the National Gallery is here with a lot of cool indigenous Aboriginal art. For some reason, they have a glassworks shop, and you can like hunt for truffles with dogs. Okay, sure. Jarvis Bay Territory. Many people don't even really see this as like a separate territory because it's kind of like it works with the capital. As the story goes, after Canberra was built, they were kind of like, oh crap, maybe we should have done this on the coast so that we could have access to the ocean. So in 1915, New South Wales was like, okay, you can have this little peninsula. So then they took it, but then it kind of sucked because the port didn't really function that well, and like the train leading up to it couldn't hold heavy freight cargo going up the hill, and now it's just home to like a Navy base with like 400 people. So it actually cooperates with the capital legislatively, but it actually is its own separate territory.
Alright.
I mean, it's super small, but you can still actually do some things here. Like there's whale watching, there's some shops and restaurants. But yeah, that's just about it. Small little territory.
Small.
The Northern Territory,
Northern.
capital Darwin. Now this is basically the place that Australians are referring to when they say the Outback. It is the gateway to all that interior, crazy Australian stuff that you see in all the movies and TV shows and magazines. Obviously, it's home to the most famous natural landmark, Uluru or Ayers Rock. There's a lot of other cool natural sites too, like the Mataranka thermal pools. And even though it doesn't have the highest population of indigenous Australians, it has the highest population per capita, somewhere around 10%. And now the external offshore island territories, Ashmore and Cartier. It's basically a bunch of empty sandbanks and sand islands and coral reefs in the middle of the ocean. In 1974, Australia signed the Memorandum of Understanding. It kind of allows Indonesian fishers to go around the area and fish and go to the islands for shelter and visit grave sites. It is a marine park, however, it also kind of acts, unfortunately, as like a place for human smuggling. And the government has been kind of monitoring this area for a while. The Australian Antarctic Territory. I mean, technically no capital, but the only place of residency would be Davis Station. And it's actually the largest territorial claim on Antarctica by any nation. And yeah, basically, you know, research research and scientists. There was some controversy with some illegal Japanese whaling ships that passed by the area. I mean, what else can I say? I mean, it's Antarctica. You know what it is. Christmas Island, capital Flying Fish Cove. I actually did a video on this a while ago. Check it out if you want. It's a fascinating island. There's only about 2,000 people, but it's very diverse. Every year, the island experiences a huge crab migration. They even built barricades and like a bridge that they can use so that they don't get crushed by cars. They are also known for having a former detention center that held asylum seekers. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place off the beaten track. The Cocos, or Keeling Islands, capital West Island. They also go by Pulu Panjang. Cocos referring to all the coconut trees that can be found on the island, and Keeling because it was named after the guy that discovered it. It's made up of 27 coral atolls, only 2 of which are inhabited. Altogether, there are only about 600 people, mostly Malays. They are descended from the workers that were brought over by this Scottish guy who decided to he was a merchant. He wanted to develop the islands for a plantation. The Coral Sea Islands. There is no capital, but the only inhabited island is Willis Island. It only has like 4 people on a weather station. Their job is to like monitor the weather. Other than that, though, the only other thing known about this place is that in 2004 there was like a bunch of protesters that tried to make their own micronation. It was called the Gay and Lesbian Kingdom of the Coral Sea Islands. Even though it wasn't really much of a serious claim and it was just more of like a political statement, it actually gained a lot of publicity. The Heard and McDonald Islands. Completely uninhabited, but Atlas Cove is kind of like the place where people go to camp out and research. Most Aussies learn that this is the only place in Australia where they have active volcanoes. It's actually closer to Africa and Antarctica than it is to Australia. Freezing cold, peaks covered in ice most of the year, and actually Mawson Peak on Heard Island is technically the tallest point in Australia if you consider it, but yeah. And speaking of which, Mawson Peak on Heard Island actually creates this weird vortex shedding effect on the clouds when they pass by. But otherwise, yeah, the only living things on the island would be seals and penguins. You actually need permission from the Australian government to even come here because it's a nature reserve. It would be a real challenge to come here, but really cool to document it, don't you think? And finally, Norfolk Island, capital Kingston. This one is interesting. First of all, they are famous for the Norfolk pine, which grows here. It's even on their flag. They export it a lot, especially to mainland Australia for Christmas time. Second, just like many other places in Australia, it started as a penal colony, then it was closed down and abandoned, and then the extra mutineers from Pitcairn Island came over and resettled it. There was like 200 of them. So there's kind of like a link between Norfolk and Pitcairn. Amongst that crew were some Polynesians. They mixed in, and today there's kind of like a weird fusion British/Polynesian culture. They even speak their own Creole. And yeah, basically the people on the island today are mostly descended from those mutineers. So that's it. That's all 16 states and territories. However, I do kind of have to mention one more thing. This is probably going to offend some people, but it kind of has to be said. Australia kind of still, in a way, thinks New Zealand is like still theirs. According to Section 6 of the Australia's Constitution Act, it says, the states shall mean such of the colonies of New South Wales, New Zealand, Queensland, Tasmania, Victoria, Western Australia, and South Australia. And they just kind of left it there. But when Kiwis see this, they're like, ha, nope. Good luck, you're on your own. In the end, Australia is pretty much unlike anywhere else on Earth. I mean, can you imagine what the first European colonists must have thought when they landed on this area? They must have thought it was like a completely different planet. Like what, like hopping pouch animals and like duck-billed beaver things? It really is unique, landscape-wise and people-wise. Beautiful people, great culture. Thank you for watching this video.
Thank you very much.
Stay cool, stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching this with me. Then every day you learn something, right? Wow, thank you very much for watching. I'm your girl Basemera. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Bye.